Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and today I'm reviewing Welcome to the Moon from Blue Cocker Games. Welcome to the Moon is the third game in this series, starting with Welcome to, or Welcome to Your Perfect Home, then Welcome to Las Vegas, I believe, and then we have Welcome to the Moon, which, well, this one has, 8 games in it at once, plus a campaign mode, so the most bang for the buck that you're possibly going to get, although I think it is more expensive too, it's still the most bang for your buck that you're going to get out of this trilogy of games. Welcome to the Moon specifically, is a roll and write game. A roll and write game which you're going to do, or more specifically, a flip and write game. A flip and write game which every single round, you're going to flip these cards. You're going to go ahead, you're going to flip these cards over here, and you're going to reveal both an icon, an action icon that in some way correlates to the map, as well as a number that has to go in a specific grid. You see, the basic premise of Welcome to the Moon, no matter which map you're playing on, and there are 8. If we go through this over here, we'll slowly show you these as we go through them, but there are 8 different maps over here. We're just showing you the first one right now. The basic idea is you're trying to arrange things numerically in patterns. So what you're going to do is you're going to be going in ascending order in general. So for example, in each of these rows, we are trying to put down numbers in ascending order. If I put down a 3 in this box over here, then inherently I have to put a 1 and a 2 over there in order to fill out the grid, because I cannot put a 4 over there. In general, you're always going ascending order left to right, although some of the maps or the boards will in some way adjust that, but that's the general starting rule of thumb. Past that, every one of these over here, every one of these icons is going to give you something different in terms of how they interact with the map, and that's where it's hard to actually explain this game because, well, every single map is different. Every single map is going to have slight adjustments to the way they use energy, the way they use pools and water and business icons, and all these different traditional icons you'll find in Welcome to, or in Welcome to Las Vegas, but you'll have those in here as well, but every map will use them slightly differently. From the very first starting map in which you're going to barely use them at all, they're going to be less commonly used over here. You're going to have these indicators of where things can go, which is a little bit of a placement restriction, but they won't give you abilities. From there, you're going to be taking off in your spaceship because there is theoretically a story developing over here. You're going to be taking off in your spaceship to another map, and this is an entirely separate game, meaning you don't do this in one game. You play through that first map, and then when you're done with that, you go to the second map, and you can keep going as well in separate subsequent games. So you go to the next map where you're starting to wander off from Earth into outer space, and you have these numerical patterns, but you're going to use various things over here to break up the rows. So you're going to be causing little dividers in these rows, which will break up the patterns, creating new sections of starting again from your 1 upwards. Then you're going to go over here to starting to colonize the moon, where you're going to have to be mindful of going left to right, top to bottom. I'm not going to go through every single map. So the point is that every single map is a slightly different puzzle you're playing with, and every map uses those icons in different ways. So you can see over here, you can see the plant icons, the water over here, as you try to match the water symbols to the various water spots on the board, as you try to have the quadrants of plants, as you have the business symbols over here that you're using over there, and the astronauts that will help you modify your roles. Again, it's hard to fully explain this trying to teach a game where every single rule is slightly different depending on the map you're playing on. That's the core idea of Welcome to. You're playing through a map, you're playing through a variety of maps, you're trying to go ahead and put out the numbers, trying to score as many points as possible, and the way you score points will slightly differ map to map, but you also have these goals. These goals are going to be customized to the map. So you have a whole box of goals, and you have different goals you can choose from, and you have different goals that you'll be choosing over here. I should probably put them A, B, C in numeric order over there. You can have these different goals that will give you something you're going for, and the first player will get the higher reward, and then once they do so, once they achieve that goal, you're going to turn it over where all the other players can only get the lower reward for achieving the same goal. So it's first come, first serve, although getting there second still gives you a benefit. Past that, the game comes with a campaign mode as well. You're going to have a full campaign mode booklet over here, where you're going to be able to go through a bit of a choose your own adventure, making choices that will define the goals you place, as well as slowly unlocking content for the game. As you continue going through the game, you're going to unlock content. This whole deck over here of secret cards that I will not spoil for you, but in some way, shape, and form, they modulate or adjust aspects of the various boards you're going to be going through, giving you even more gameplay content. So again, from the get-go, we have 8 maps over here, launching into space, flying through space, landing on the moon, starting to colonize and plant roots and gather materials and minerals, building out a dome in space, being mindful of the various viruses that are escaping around the map, going over here to these various colony shuttles over here, and then finally to the end game of exploration over here. That's going to be what's going on in Welcome to, and then back to the beginning where you can start that all again from the beginning, and then, of course, play through the campaign mode, because you do not have to play this as a campaign mode. You could play this as a one-shot, going through each rule scenario one at a time, just flipping through the rule book where they have the core game standard rules over here, and then the individual rules for each sheet, which is generally around 2 pages. If you pick pick, let's say, Adventure 4, the mine over here, you'll have the indicator on the front over here, and then you'll have one full page spread of rules, and then you're already onto Adventure 5, the dome, where again, you have the picture, and then a page spread of rules, and then Adventure 6, the virus. I think the most I've seen for anyone so far is a full page and a half of rules, 2 pages if you're including the picture. It's not a lot of additional rules for every single one of these maps, and that is basically Welcome to the Moon. It's a flip and write adventure that builds upon the core premise of Welcome to Your Perfect Home. It continues to iterate upon that by giving you 8 different maps, and it gives you further than that a campaign mode with unlockable content to continue making this game as fresh as possible for as long as possible, more than justifying the, I think, $10 more it costs for this one. I think this version of Welcome to costs like $10 more than the original, and gives you, 8 maps and campaign content and unlockable content to keep you busy in the meantime. Which brings us to the review part of things, starting off with ease of play, which is a mixed bag, because the core game concept is actually very easy to explain, but Welcome to the Moon does suffer from that concept that I've seen in many games, where you're teaching a core set of rules, but then you're also teaching the modular set of rules. So you have to have the core set of rules in your mind, plus the modular set of rules that apply to that specific map, and that's how you dive into the game, which always, I personally find, a drop harder. For me, it wasn't that hard because I already walked into this game knowing how to play Welcome to, but if you're walking to this game for the first time, you are both learning a rule set and then adjusting that rule set from your very first play to the specific map you're playing, which I find to be a little bit much. And then, of course, that continues on with each additional map bringing you new rules. Not a ton to absorb, not the most complicated thing, but they are new rules. It's not just like, hey, here's a new drawing. There are actual new rules as far as how you use the different symbols in the game and how you manage all of that as you try to place things down. And so, mostly a simple, easy game to play, plays in around 30 to 45 minutes per session, but at the same time has new rules each time you dive into a new map, although I will say that they're fairly easy to memorize. So far, I would guess, based on playing this so far, that I can dive into any of the maps I've played and just go straight to it without having to refresh what was going on. And some of these, like the first map, I haven't played the first map since I first played this game maybe 4 months ago, and I think that I would remember this perfectly without having to really dive into any specific adjustments as far as how it plays. So overall, pretty easy with a caveat. As far as player count, this is a 1 to 6 player game, and in theory, like many roll and writes, if you have enough copies, enough pens, enough pads, if you buy, 3 boxes of this is now a 1 to 18 player game. There are some aspects of the game, when you play Welcome to as a series, there are some aspects of the game that are competitive, that are fall into the category of who got there first. So in theory, you can break up into groups of 6, and each person have their own individual person that they're measuring against. I don't know, you can figure out a way to play this with a lot of people is what I'm saying. You have to make some small adjustments, but if you're just looking at the core set and just judging it by that, it's a 1 to 6 player game. I've played this at 2, 3, and 4 players, I believe. I have not played the solo mode, and I think 4 is the max I've played it at. In general, these work at all player counts. It's mostly simultaneous play. Each turn is equal to the slowest player. So playing a 6-player game compared to a 2-player game might add 5 to 10 minutes to your game. It will not make the game 3, 4, 5 times as long. It just might add a few minutes to your gameplay. As far as what I like, don't like, and conceal as not liking, this is the core format of Welcome to. This is, you're going to be flipping cards. You're going to be trying to draw symbols. Some of the maps are better than others over here, but the maps all give you a slightly different puzzle. Like that first map is more of a training scenario. I don't consider this to be one that, there's a reason I haven't returned to this one, because it's a little bit more basic compared to the others. But each map gives you a different puzzle as far as how you work with the same basic premise. You're trying to be mindful of the symbols. Which of these do I choose? Do I choose the 1 energy, the 2 energy? Do I choose the 3 business symbol? How do I want to apply that to my board, and how do I think I can most take advantage and build the most optimal pathway forward? Which combination of scoring potentials am I going for, and how will I make that work compared and contrasted with the other players? That core concept, that core gameplay loop is very present, being a simple, accessible game, but one with multiple pathways to victories, a high degree of variability. There's a ton of variability. Again, this game comes with 8 different maps, and each map comes with different goals, and each map and goal comes with different unlockable content throughout the campaign. You can play the base game on its own, you can play the campaign on its own, you can play the unlocked content, you can do a ton of things over here. There's a lot of variety to this experience, and you can pick the favorite maps that you have. From the 8 maps there are, I think I have, I'm trying to think of the ones I like the most. I think maybe 3 of them, 1 of them I found fairly boring, and then 2 more of them I found to be a little bit less engaging, but for the most part, I really enjoy them, and you can play through the ones you enjoy the most. You do not have to play all 8 maps to enjoy this game. I recommend playing all 8 maps to see which ones you like, but you don't have to play them again once you figure out which ones you like. This gives you a ton of content. You could have Welcome to and Welcome to Las Vegas, which will be 2 maps, or you can have Welcome to the Moon, which will give you 8 maps with tons of content. I keep doubling down on the tons of content because to me, this took a game that I already liked. It took Welcome to, an engine that I enjoyed, a game that I appreciated, and it gave you a ton of content around that into a single box, making it very accessible, very engaging, giving you reasons to dive into it. And if you want going through it from a story standpoint, if you want going through a bit of a choose your own adventure, which has minimal degrees of impact on how things play out, but some degree of, some choice of how things will play out and the goals you'll have, it makes you feel a little bit immersed. If you like this, it depends on how much you like the story content. It's not necessary for the game at all. It depends what you like and don't like. Speaking of which, as far as things I don't like about the game, first of all, some maps are worse than others. There's not a lot that I don't like about Welcome to in general. Welcome to is a game that it's light and accessible, which to a degree does mean it caps out as far as how good of a game it could be. But for the most part, it's a game that will give you a degree of agency, a degree of choice, a degree of how do you want to build out and fill your maps in what particular order. But at the same time, the game does come with worse maps in a matter of speaking. Some of the maps I didn't enjoy as much. Again, 2 or 3 of them weren't maps that I found as compelling, and I'm therefore less likely to go back to, which the most impactful negative I have there is if you're trying to go through a campaign, if you're trying to go through the campaign book, then maybe you feel pressure to play a map that isn't as much for you. I don't bother. I just play the maps that I like and continue playing the maps that I like, and that's the way I've been going through this. Secondly is I don't really care for the story. I mentioned the story as a potential plus as more ways of content for you, and that's true, but on my personal level, I didn't find the story to be engaging or compelling or really provide any degree of nuance or depth to anything. I didn't walk away with any major... I started with it, I just didn't continue with it past the first few games and just continue playing it. Basically, I don't know, maybe I want to... I don't know. I find weirdly... Maybe just that completionist aspect of choose your own adventure and trying to find all the endings from that stance. I kind of want to go through the story, but I didn't actually find it add to my gameplay experience. It's just not bad to read text about people starving and dying and humans taking off from planet Earth and having trouble in space, and that's not the worst. And so I don't dislike the story, I just don't particularly care for the story either. As far as what I can see others not liking, the biggest thing I have is that this is a game that every single map has its own rule set. Every single time you're diving into another map, it's another 2 pages of rules, and while that's not a lot, if this is the kind of thing where you're trying to go through it all in one night, all in one session, well, that means you're going to be interrupting every gameplay for one person to sit there and go through 2 pages of rules trying to grok and understand, okay, that makes sense. Okay, that symbol's used for that. That symbol's used for that. And then, okay, I got it. And that's a lot faster. It'll actually take them, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes. And so this is a game where you either have to remember the multiple maps in advance before you play it, or you have to be fine with the fact that you're taking interruptions in between games, or meaning as in playing at different nights, or you have to be fine with actual interruptions in between games as somebody reads the rules. So while overall the game is very accessible, that aspect might slightly get in the way, and maybe you're the kind of person who just wants to play Welcome to, because you have the same basic core game without adding 2 pages of rules every single time someone wants to dive into it, and so that could be a problem for you. As far as final thoughts on Welcome to the Moon, I really enjoyed this one. I liked Welcome to originally when I first played it. I liked Welcome to Las Vegas, although I didn't feel the need to keep that one. I thought Welcome to was just a better version of Welcome to Las Vegas, and I was like, I don't need Welcome to Las Vegas. I'd rather play Welcome to. It felt more elegant, it felt more streamlined, it felt simpler, and a lot of those complaints or comparisons or critiques could potentially be applied here. You may play Welcome to the Moon and find that this is a game that is just a more complicated version than Welcome to, and one that is not rewarding. You may find that. Again, I had that with Welcome to Las Vegas. I enjoyed Welcome to Las Vegas on its own merits, but I would always play Welcome to instead. Welcome to the Moon, on the other hand, I really enjoy. I really find that these maps, each of them is a bit different. My first play, I found that first spaceship map to be a little less engaging, but by the time I was already making my way into space, I found this to be a really compelling puzzle. This one over here, to date, is still one of my favorite puzzles, as you have to go to the left and up, managing different sequences. Each one of these maps gives you a different way to engage with the game, gives you a different degree of how it's going to resonate with you and the type of challenges and puzzles you want, and I really enjoy the core game that was established with Welcome to, as well as how it is developed up into this point. Overall, this one's a 4 out of 5 for me. A 4 out of 5. I really enjoy it. I think it's an excellent game. Caps out a bit as far as how deep and nuanced it goes, but this is my go-to version of Welcome to going forward. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, and most obviously, Welcome to. If you like this concept and you want to see the originator, or you just want something a little simpler, or if this seems like a bit too much, or if you want to save $10 or whatever it is, Welcome to is still a game that's in my collection. It's still a game that is very solid and I can easily recommend, and it's, well, the first one in the series. And then lastly, or secondly, I would say Railroad Inc. Railroad Inc. to me still goes neck and neck with Welcome to as far as games that feel very similar in their accessibility and the degree of depth and choice and variety they give, while also still being a little lighter and gateway friendly at the same time. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.